Hey, buddy.
Hey, dude. How's it going, mate? You okay?
Good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, man. Good morning. Good morning out in Canada. We're live from Barcelona, live from
Nice.
Toronto.
Nice. Two very different weathers, that's for sure. It's freezing, man, out here. So everyone thinks I wear the hat because it's like Salesforce hat, which I guess that's why I chose this hat. But the reason why I'm always wearing a hat is it's really cold in my house.
Yeah, I can imagine. What, like in Canada right now? What are we talking? Minus what?
But it's got to be like less than -10 for sure. I don't even check the weather. I just stick my head out and it's like, oh, buddy, no, not yet. Not yet.
I left the UK for a good reason, but mate, look, good to connect. And I know it's been a hectic start. New year. I feel like we've just been thrown into the deep end right again. The Salesforce ecosystem doesn't stop. Velocity's just gone through another dimension. I mean, what's it been like for you over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I was gonna say for today, we're not gonna do no career advice preaching or recruitment propaganda. Today's just gonna be
It's real.
jobs,
It's jobs. It's jobs. And you know what, Mal? Like some of the jobs that I've seen you've got and that have come through, they're exceptional. And I'm not just saying that. Like some of them are crazy rates.
Yeah, I would say the only real thing that really separates them is going to be the end clients of the projects. Like we don't have to hide everything we say every time. Like a lot of our pipeline, at least North America, 100% of that, and a good chunk of European pipeline all comes from Salesforce directly. And although we touch different areas of Salesforce's business of what they need us to staff for, a good chunk of that does come from the industry side. And I think the biggest point where people might be interested is just because, number one, the projects are these industries projects, right, are typically very big because only real enterprise companies have the money to essentially buy it. And the industries are geared towards industries, the industries that have a lot of money. So if we look at even what we were talking about before, I was talking about delivery managers, for example, and business systems analysts or senior business analysts for a big telecommunications project, right? So this is a big telco provider based out of the States. The DM that I talked about, the delivery manager, that's likely to close this week. So thank you for everybody who reached out and applied. The business analyst, I mean, there are people who are interviewing for that role, but there's just so many open that if there are people who, for example, have either CPQ experience from Salesforce, we actually have been able to flex this. So if you have any CPQ experience,
and that's global right now. For those who are watching. So
CPQ,
is it
CPQ, yes. CPQ, yes. If we can look globally. Anyone who has, you need Salesforce core experience. Maurizio, hello. And you need the Salesforce core experience, but if you have CPQ experience from a different platform, Aptus, whatever, we might be able to make that work if you're a solid BSA and you've worked in Salesforce.
So would they upskill then? So for example, if someone's watching right now, they're a BA, they've touched CPQ, but maybe it's Steelbrick or some kind of other platform.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They'd be able to cross-train on. Do they need the industry as well though? Because look, with telco,
For that one, no. Because with the CPQ is the most important piece. We can work with that, but you got to be a solid BSA too. Yep. So we've had people who are great with configuration inside CPQ, but they're not going to make it for this role, even if they have that, because to upskill somebody to be a solid BA, you need experience for that. It's really hard to dive into.
They need the essentials in terms of the requirements.
Yeah, exactly. The flip side of that, though, what you just said, we're looking. The flip side of that story, where they need the telco experience, we have a different senior business analyst. There's a group of these roles for a different part of that same project. But what's more important here is the core Salesforce experience is important. Being a solid BSA is important. But instead of CPQ experience for this one, we could probably make it work if you have some good telco experience in general.
More industry verticalized.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
But I think for all the telco guys watching who are maybe still focused on things like Oracle, Siebel, if you've not explored this new area of telco, it's definitely worth it in terms of financially, the work, progressing your career. And it's never too late to learn. I think the guys we work with in telco who have been in it for 20, 30 years, they still carry on developing. So look, great roles there.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest telco projects. I mean, if you want to name drop, I don't know, there's some big names in there. Some of the biggest telco projects probably globally.
It's really not hard to figure out. And if we were on the phone, I would probably tell you, if you look at the southern states, really big telco program, everyone knows about it. It's kind of obvious. But like I said, everything's through Salesforce directly. Your contracting is part of Salesforce's professional services team. and working on.
What's it like for your contractors? So like, I know how they're treated in Europe. I mean, I always tell people, right, like they really do treat you well, and in terms of making you feel part of the team, the merchandise, getting
Oh man,
training that's not
they'll probably
accessible.
try and take you perm, like if you're doing really good anyway. So like that'll show, like just go to show you that like it's hard. It's not, these aren't cakewalk type projects. Like it is a lot. You do work a lot of hours, but at the end of the day, I mean, like if you do well and you give it your all, like they're gonna treat you perm because they want to bring you perm anyway. It's something that happens.
Once they see the benefits as well with Salesforce,
yeah,
exactly. It's just like the writing's on the wall.
There's options. Even if you want to stay contract, of course, that's good. But eventually, sometimes it happens where you might get offered perm, not guaranteed, but definitely possible. The last thing I was going to say before maybe you want to take it from me, Hemi, is like the one position that I'm struggling with at the moment, and I can be completely honest and vulnerable about this, is for another telco project. This is like a PST West Coast thing. We need someone who, and like most of these people work at Salesforce directly. This is why it's so hard to like find more people for it, right? Yeah. It's a UX designer specifically with CPQ experience. Now, like
for those who don't know, you come from that world as well, right? So for those who don't know, Mao, when he crossed over to Salesforce, this guy was basically, he built with a few people in his team the UX UI market within Canada and had regions. So,
so like,
but there's no one, but the mix of UI and Salesforce.
No, not even just that. It's UX designer plus working on a CPQ project. So you have to have like UX design experience designing like a CPQ process, because there's different parts of that. The way that the contract stuff moves through. Like again, I can't really speak to it as detailed as I would like, but I understand what I need to see at least in their portfolio. The thing is, because industries is quite new, and what they're doing on the UX side, I think is also like a bit more of a newer value add. It's really tough to find someone who doesn't already work at Salesforce who has specifically industry CPQ experience and they're a core UX designer, even with Salesforce CPQ. This is also tricky to find, where we've seen some like opportunity or people who have like Netcracker CPQ, Amdoc CPQ, and they've worked as a designer. Even if you haven't touched Salesforce, but you come from these environments, especially because they're telco geared, any other CPQ experience you have, and you're a UX designer and you've worked on these projects, I would be more than happy to have a conversation and see how we can make something.
You'll be. Look, I think anyone watching,
it's hard, man. It's a hard
friends. I know, and I think this is where like it's gonna have to be someone that knows someone, and it's a needle in a haystack. It could be a recommendation, which we will, benefit those people for. So look, if you know anyone who's in that world or even wants to learn more on the CPQ side and take that to the next level, then please reach out to Mao, because I think that one would be a relief in so many ways. But it's difficult. But this is, mate, I'm glad that you were vulnerable before I move on to my roles, because I think in recruitment, there's a perception that we get paid a lot, which, is true if you're successful. But if you're working in a niche market like Mao just described, or velocity CPQ, to just engage one person and get them through that whole process can take so much, and the risk involved given the market and where we are now, where the demand for these profiles are so high, it makes things for us hard.
If you look at anyone who's touched CPQ from a UX design perspective globally, even if you could run this on LinkedIn and verify it, there's literally less than 100 people in the whole world.
Yeah, in the whole world.
In the world, at least who list it publicly. At least people who list it publicly. I know there's one person I know who has it, but you'll never find it.
So if you're someone who's thinking about a career change or maybe in IT and wants to move into a new area, then maybe that's a potential new niche area that you could definitely capitalize and make sure. But I think I'm with you, dude. I think it's still with Salesforce. If I look at Europe right now and what the team's doing, we've got everything from velocity architects to developers to, and that's not OM specific. That's more, a velocity architect who has telco, but also new industries like utilities and energy, which we're seeing a lot more demand in. I think if we look at the German region, Germany is waking up. I think it's getting hotter and hotter. They finally come off holiday. So I think if we look at that, we still have a big demand for niche skills like MuleSoft. We've still got companies that we're working with that are still new to us that we partnered with, like one of them, which is a new ISV. They're desperate for pre-sales people. And I think pre-sales is an area that we'll see more people cross into, because if you've got natural communication skills and you're a good person with clients and you enjoy that side, if you're technical, it's a good crossover. And I've seen a lot of people do it with the OTE and what you get out of it financially. you can take home so much more. But I think overall, we're in a position now, same as you, Mal, where it's just about engaging and really building more connections. And I think that's what we've done well for the last 3 years. But now we're becoming so more specialized in so many areas that we're building new relationships. And also, Mal, I wanted to ask you, like, where now, because before we were always a team that was working Germany, UK. We've recently gone into North America with your help. Where now are you like, where do you want to develop more relationships? If people are watching right now, what countries can you work in? Just if they don't know, because people might not think we can work these countries, but give them an idea.
Yeah, so we have some, like, I mean, obviously, like, set up where we're set up, right? Every company is going to have some limitations, but we have some good partners that allow us to basically work with anybody, anywhere, pending as long as the end client's okay with it. But we really have capabilities to work with at least contractors anywhere in the world, pending the project, right? There's a couple of places like we can't, but I'm pretty sure if you're watching this, if you can see it, and it's not, censored out, we can probably work together, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So I think there's one country where we may not be able to work with you if you're based there. But other than that, we have full, we have a payroll solution that will allow us to do it fully legally, fully compliantly.
So someone in India watching right now
no problem.
Wants to consider going contract, works in UX, UI, they can work with you and still get, and still financially, and still financially it's beneficial for them.
Yeah, but especially in cases like this, like, probably because we're working with budgets from different parts of the world where, even if you just look at the stability of a currency is more stable, right? We do have a bit more flexibility in making sure that if you are going to make the jump to contract, we can make it worth your while, right? Not, like I said, some projects, they really do need someone who's local. Maybe there's going to be visits, like, you never know. But in cases like this, where it's super niche and we really do have to look globally, 100%, like, wherever you are, as long as you can be flexible relatively with time zone, doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as you can try, like, you can definitely reach out, talk to us. We can give you whatever advice we have. And there's definitely a way at some point, even if it's not today, tomorrow, as long as we have you on our radar and you're in a space that's definitely pretty hot, we'll be able to find a way.
Are you seeing it become more common? And the reason I ask you is because you specialized in contracts. You came from that world. You've helped so many permanent employees get the right role where they've stayed in companies for years and years. Are you seeing more of a change now, where, especially in regions like India, where the mentality is shifting a bit more, and now they're a bit more liberal, a bit more free, a bit more independent, and also with COVID and the situation where people can work remote, do you think that's going to continue for the foreseeable?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. I think it depends. Like, so I think a big blocker about this before, because really not much it's more acceptable to work remote now, but having somebody work like a different time zone from you to sort of support or try and match your time zone from, like, a massive distance, like across oceans, it's not like brand new, right? Companies have been doing this for a long time.
Sure.
I think if you look at recruitment companies, though, that's where maybe there's been some limitations on where they can look for talent. And that's not always geared because of the client, because sometimes the client, like, would actually be up for it if it's,
and they're free to say, go and find me talent anyway.
Yeah, but the way it works in some recruitment companies, because everything is very regionalized, and I'm talking not just like, we're regionalized. You focus a bit more on UK than I do in North America, even though we share stuff and we help each other, but regionalized to the point where revenue is, like, completely split between different teams, where if I need to get someone from a different country, some revenue is going to have to go to a different office. And, like, that can, it's not impossible, but, like, a lot of companies maybe don't want to mess with that because it can cause.
That's what I like about our dynamic, because I remember when you
started, a bit different for us, right?
You were working
no real limits. Like, if we're small and flexible enough where if you find someone in, wherever
India,
we can put them on my side, we can put them on your side. There's, like, complete flexibility globally to put people where we need. And in a time where you have roles where there's literally 100 people in the world, if you're just looking at one city, you will not find this person. Even if you find the one person in your city, the chances of them taking the job, like, it's nothing against you or your ability to, like, convince them or recruit them. It's just, like, it's chance. They're probably going to get a lot of opportunities too, right? So
Big time, big time. But I was gonna, before we go on to the careers in the cloud updates and all the stuff we got coming up, you're out on the field again, right? So you're actually going out and meeting a lot of people. So for those that are watching it in America, Canada, you know, I think, look, if you don't know us, whether the world's changing to a virtual world, I still believe that face-to-face interaction and just meeting people and having a chat, a coffee, whatever it is always a great thing to do. Mal, I believe, is headed on a tour in the States. So I think so far, without revealing too much, is it Buffalo?
I'm gonna head to Buffalo at the end of the month. I'm gonna be meeting someone down there. I've been looking forward to meeting for a while. If all goes well, and you know, with COVID and stuff, it's easy to travel. Like I'm potentially looking at New York as a potential next spot. Vancouver, there's a lot of people out in BC who I'd love to go meet. Of course, San Francisco, there's tons, but I mean, let's just take it one step at a time, because you never know. Plans can change really quick.
If you're in Buffalo though, and you're watching this, drinks on Mal. You bring the buffalo sauce. He's bringing the drinks. But look, honestly, meet this guy. If you're watching right now, even if it's just free advice, where you're sitting with someone who's a specialist like him, just to have a chat about your options in the market, take advantage of it, and also get out of the house and maybe have some interaction. But look, New York, watch out for that. And talking about tours and maybe visiting different countries, I heard through the grapevine, Mal, that you might be going cross-continent as well, and you're coming overseas for potentially what we're about to do with careers in the cloud and taking it global. Tell us more about it quickly.
Yeah, really quick before we shut this down. But what we're looking to do for careers in the cloud, if you watch the podcast, cool. If you haven't, you know, check it out if you have time. But basically, we feature different people at different parts of their career, mainly within Salesforce, who are they're doing pretty cool things and they want to share certain stuff with the ecosystem. So we're going to start. We've done these obviously virtually for the past year, and we want to start looking at doing these in person. There's some spots in the States where we're looking at doing maybe a live audience, where we have the panel of guests, you know, and we have obviously a live audience watching there, interacting, asking questions. So again, within municipal guidelines of what we can do in different cities here and in Europe, that's definitely a point of where we're looking forward to maybe having some of these live in 2022 for sure.
Man, I hope so. I hope so. Look, everyone, I hope, you know, I've just recovered, as Mal may know, from COVID, and it took a lot out of me, but I hope everyone is getting through it as best as we can. And I hope that when it gets to April, May, we can take careers in the cloud to the States, to London, to Berlin. It would be great to have a live audience and to see that interaction again. Because look, I love virtual, but it's nothing like having a drink together, right? And having a good time. But look, Mal, on that note, I know that you've got a lot of roles to work. You're just waking up. It's cold. I'll leave you to it. Everyone that watched, I appreciate it. And we'll be back very soon.
Thanks, Chico. Good to see you. Take care, everybody.
Take care, bro.